Have you ever looked at an old photograph and felt like someone in it was trying to tell you something? A gaze so deep, a hand clutching something as if the past was still alive, even in the still frame. In 1859, on a Virginia plantation, a daguerreotype was taken, thought to be a portrait of a wealthy family. But more than a century later, when modern light shone on the photograph, people discovered a detail no one had seen before. The woman standing on the right of the frame, a slave named Clara, was holding a small piece of paper, and on it, hidden something that would change the entire way we understand resistance during the slave era. Tonight's story is a researcher's journey, tracing the path from Richmond to New Orleans, decoding the secret hidden in the light, and rediscovering the voice of a woman that history tried to erase. A photograph, a hand, and a map to freedom. Are you ready to see the past through Clara's eyes? This 1859 plantation portrait looks peaceful, until you notice what's hidden in the servant's hand. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood alone inside the softly humming archives of the Virginia Historical Society. The air was cool still, almost reverent. Before her lay a daguerreotype that had arrived in an unmarked box just 3 days earlier, a fragile window into another century. The image showed the Ashford family of Richmond, Virginia. It was 1859. They were posed on the wide steps of their plantation manor, dressed in fine fabrics that caught the silver light. At the center sat Master Jonathan Ashford, his expression carved in pride. His wife beside him, their 3 children arranged carefully, like porcelain figures in a family shrine. And behind them, almost lost in shadow, stood 5 enslaved servants in their formal house attire. Their stillness was expected. Their silence demanded. Sarah leaned closer, the glass of her magnifier trembling slightly in her hand. At first glance, it seemed like every other antebellum portrait, the same calculated display of wealth and social order, the illusion of peace built on quiet suffering. But then something shifted. One of the servants, a woman standing slightly apart from the others, seemed different. Her face was turned just off-center, her gaze caught somewhere between defiance and warning. And in her right hand, half hidden by the folds of her dark dress, was something that did not belong. A small piece of paper, folded tight. Held with deliberate tension, Sarah's breath caught. In all her years studying plantation photography, she had never seen such a thing. Enslaved individuals were never permitted to hold objects in formal portraits. Every element was arranged by the master, every glance, every gesture, every shadow. But this broke the rule. She reached for her camera, heart pounding softly in the quiet room. Through the lens, she focused on the woman's hand, taking high-resolution photographs from every angle. And there it was, undeniable, distinct, not a trick of light, not a flaw in the metal plate. A message concealed in plain sight. This changes everything, she whispered, her voice nearly swallowed by the hum of the climate control. The next morning, Sarah returned early, her mind alive with questions. Who was this woman? What was she trying to say? She dug into the records, property ledgers, council, minutes, church rosters. Jonathan Ashford, she discovered, owned a tobacco plantation known as Riverside Manor. In 1859, he held 47 enslaved workers under his control. A pillar of Richmond society, seated on the city council, a man whose respectability was built on invisible chains. The daguerreotype she learned had been taken by Marcus Webb, a traveling photographer who captured Virginia's wealthy families between 1855 and 1861. His logbook, preserved at the Library of Virginia, confirmed the date, August 14, 1859. Sarah studied Webb's other work, scanning through dozens of portraits. Not a single servant held an object. Not one broke the quiet choreography of submission. Yet this woman had. Returning to her workstation, Sarah opened the image in specialized software enhancing the faintest details. The paper came into sharper view, folded several times, small enough to hide in a palm, large enough to hold words. Words that could have meant freedom or warning. Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Reynolds, a historian of resistance movements, arrived within the hour. His eyes weary and sharp, locked onto the photograph. "That's no accident," he murmured, adjusting his glasses. She wanted that paper to be seen, but only by someone who would look closely enough. Sarah stared at the woman's face again. The eyes seemed to pierce through the century of dust between them. Steady, intelligent, unflinching. Who was she? Sarah breathed. Marcus pulled up the Ashford records on his laptop. The 1860 census slave schedule listed 7 women working in the main house. No names, only ages, descriptions, fragments of existence reduced to ink. The woman in the photograph appeared to be in her mid-30s. Tall, proud, her features strong yet patient. The next morning, Sarah drove south, the August heat pressing against her windshield. She imagined that same heavy hour a century and a half ago, the same month, the same sun, burning over fields of tobacco. Riverside Manor was gone now. A web of concrete and traffic had replaced it, a highway interchange where history once breathed. But at the Richmond Museum of the Confederacy, there were still boxes labeled the Ashford Papers. An elderly archivist named Dorothy led Sarah into a narrow research room. "These don't get many visitors," she said softly, her fingers brushing the faded labels. "Mostly business correspondence crop accounts. Nothing exciting." Sarah smiled faintly, though her pulse quickened. Sometimes, secrets survived in the quietest corners. She opened the first box, laying out the documents, one by one. Plantation accounts, supply orders, handwritten letters. The ink of Jonathan Ashford's pen flowed neat and controlled, recording the language of ownership yields, prices, expenditures. But between the lines, Sarah began to sense something else, a silence too deliberate to be natural, and she couldn't help but wonder. What else had been folded into that servant's hand all those years ago? The records were cruel in their precision. Each enslaved worker listed not as a name, but as property valued, inventoried, and ranked beside livestock. Sarah turned the brittle pages with quiet care, her eyes lingering on the rows of inked numbers. But then, in a letter dated September 1859, just 1 month after the portrait, she found something different. Jonathan Ashford had written to his brother in Charleston. The tone was formal, yet beneath the words, something trembled. "We've had troubling incidents. Several of the house servants have been acting peculiarly. I've increased supervision and curtailed their movements. Whatever notions they've acquired must be stamped out before they spread." Sarah read the letter twice, then again, a month. Just 1 month between the serene photograph and this fear. What had changed in that time? What had that single image captured that Jonathan only recognized later? She photographed the letter, her heart beating softly in the stillness of the archive. As she searched further, she found another document, a bill of sale dated October 1859. Jonathan had sold 3 enslaved women to a buyer in New Orleans. The sale appeared, rushed the prices slightly below market value. A common tactic, Sarah knew, remove the troublemakers, erase the whispers before they spread. Dorothy, the archivist, appeared beside her with a tray of tea. Finding anything interesting, she asked lightly. Sarah hesitated, her voice low. Maybe, she said. Do you happen to know if any Ashford descendants still live in Richmond? Dorothy nodded. There's Elizabeth Ashford Monroe. She's in her 80s, now lives in the Fan district. Her family donated these papers back in 72. Elizabeth Ashford Monroe lived in a narrow Victorian townhouse, its paint a fading shade of pale yellow. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cedar and old lace. The parlor was crowded with antique furniture and photographs whose edges had begun to curl with age. At 83, Elizabeth moved slowly, but spoke with remarkable clarity. My family's history, she said softly, settling into a velvet chair, isn't something I'm proud of. But I've always believed in facing the truth, not hiding from it. Sarah showed her the 1859 daguerreotype on her tablet. Elizabeth lifted her reading glasses, leaning closer. I've never seen this, she murmured. My grandfather Jonathan's grandson destroyed most images from those years. He said, the past should stay buried. Do you know why? Sarah asked gently. Elizabeth exhaled, her eyes drifting to the window. There were stories, she said. Whispers about an incident in 1859. Something that frightened Jonathan terribly. My grandmother mentioned it once when I was a child. She said the servants had been plotting something dangerous and that Jonathan discovered it just in time. Sarah leaned forward. What kind of plot? Elizabeth shook her head. She never said. But she mentioned a woman named Clara, a house servant. She was educated, taught herself to read by stealing books. When Jonathan found out, he sold her south, along with 2 others. Sarah's heart raced. Clara, the woman in the photograph, could it be her? Do you remember anything else? Elizabeth rose slowly and walked to a tall secretary desk. From a drawer, she withdrew a small leather-bound journal. This belonged to my great-great-grandmother Jonathan's wife, Margaret. I've only read it once. The entries disturbed me. She opened it carefully, the pages whispering like dry leaves. August 1859. Jay commissioned the family portrait today. The photographer was efficient, though I noticed Clara standing strangely, holding herself with unusual tension. Jay dismissed my concerns. Another entry followed, dated September 12th, 1859. Jay has sold Clara, Ruth, and Diane. He says they were corrupted by abolitionist ideas, that they posed a danger to our safety. I am relieved, but troubled. Clara always served faithfully. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she closed the journal. Each piece fit more tightly into place. The photograph, the letter, the sale, a quiet chain of fear and consequence. Later that week, she contacted Dr. James Washington at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Cincinnati, an expert in the networks of resistance that once threaded through the Upper South. When she sent him the enhanced photograph highlighting the folded paper in Clara's hand, his reply came within hours of phone call. His voice alive with urgency. "Sarah," he said, "do you understand what you might have here?" "Tell me," she whispered. In 1859, Virginia was a powder keg, he explained. John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry happened in October that year, but the planning began months before. Underground conductors were active in Richmond, spreading information, helping people escape. The city was alive with secret messages. Sarah's breath caught. "You think Clara was involved?" "Look at the timeline," he said. The portrait in August, the unrest in September, the sale in October, right before Brown's raid. If Jonathan discovered that Clara had ties to an underground network, he would have acted quickly. Maybe that paper in her hand was proof. Sarah stared again at the image on her screen, the faint outline of folded paper resting in Clara's hand. Her gaze meeting the lens with quiet fire. What if it was a message, Sarah murmured. A map, a coded letter, contact information. James's voice softened. It could be any of those. Enslaved people developed ingenious ways to hide information: songs, quilts, carvings, scraps of paper. Maybe Clara used the one place no one would ever look closely. A family portrait. Sarah looked at the photograph again, her reflection overlapping with the ghostly silver faces frozen in time. And for a moment, she could almost feel Clara's presence, a woman who dared to send a message across centuries, trusting that one day, someone would finally see it. James leaned back in his chair, his voice low but charged with quiet urgency. Richmond wasn't silent in those years, he said. There was an active network free. Black residents, sympathetic whites, people who risked everything to help others escape. Messages moved through household servants hidden in songs baskets or scraps of fabric. Those who worked inside the house had far more freedom of movement than field hands. Sarah listened, the hum of the archive filling the pauses between his words. "How do I find out what was on that paper?" she asked. James hesitated. "You probably can't, not directly, but you might be able to follow Clara's trail after the sale. Sometimes New Orleans slave market records survived not many, but enough. And if she was involved in resistance networks, traces of her might appear in abolitionist archives." Sarah grabbed her notebook. "Where should I start?" "Try the Amistad Research Center in New Orleans," he said. "They have extensive documentation of those sold through Louisiana markets. And contact the Friends Historical Library in Philadelphia. The Quakers kept meticulous records coded discreet but detailed." Sarah flew south on a heavy September morning. The air pressed against the airport windows, humid and unmoving. The Amistad Research Center stood quietly on the Tulane University campus, a modern building filled with the ghosts of old ledgers and auction lists, preserving the stories of those once bought, sold, and scattered across the Gulf. Dr. Patricia Green, the center's director, met her with a warm handshake. Her tone, though professional, carried the careful weight of someone who'd read too many stories of loss. The fall of 1859. Patricia explained scrolling through a glowing computer screen was a busy, brutal time for the New Orleans markets. After John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry, panic spread through the Upper South. Slaveholders began selling off servants they no longer trusted anyone who seemed too intelligent, too independent, too aware. Sarah nodded slowly. Jonathan Ashford sold 3 women that October: Clara Ruth and Diane. Patricia's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. October 1859. Let's see. A pause. Then she leaned forward. Here. October 28, 1859. 3 women from Richmond, ages 34, 28 and 41. Sold to Jacques Beaumont sugar planter, St. James Parish. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Are there any other records, descriptions, medical notes? Patricia clicked through the digital pages. Yes. The notary recorded that one woman aged 34 bore scars on her hands, unusual ones, burn marks. She looked up. That was sometimes code for punishment for handling forbidden materials. Books, letters, papers. Sarah's throat tightened. That could be her. That could be Clara. Patricia hesitated, then opened one last file. There's more, she said softly. 6 months later, in April 1860, Jacques Beaumont filed a report with the St. James Parish Sheriff. One of the women he'd purchased from Virginia had escaped. He described her as literate, intelligent, and potentially dangerous. Sarah's skin prickled. Did they find her? Patricia shook her head. No follow-up. Either she disappeared successfully or Beaumont decided not to advertise it. By 1860, some owners stopped reporting escapes. It made them look weak, and it emboldened others. The silence between them lingered heavy, like the weight of history itself. From New Orleans, Sarah traveled north to Philadelphia. The autumn air felt different there, cooler, sharp, with the scent of rain and stone. The Friends. Historical Library occupied a quiet corner of Swarthmore College, its wooden floors creaking softly underfoot. Here, in rows of bound journals and coded ledgers, the Quakers had recorded a century of quiet defiance, the secret work of the Underground Railroad. Thomas Miller, the library's specialist in resistance archives, greeted her with gentle enthusiasm. "I've been researching since you called," he said, leading her into a private reading room filled with the pale light of afternoon. The spring of 1860 was a turning point. After John Brown's execution that December, the movement only grew stronger. People were determined to continue what he began. Through courage, through silence. He spread several documents across the long oak table. Letters, journals, passenger lists, written in careful coded script. There were 3 main routes north from Louisiana. Thomas explained, pointing to a faint map. The most reliable passed through Texas, then north across Missouri and into Iowa. Those who survived that journey often reached Illinois and freedom. He turned to a worn journal, the handwriting delicate and slanted. Here, a Quaker conductor named Rebecca Walsh. May 1860. Sarah read the entry aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Received 3 travelers from the Gulf region. 2 men, 1 woman. The woman bears marks of labor yet speaks with uncommon intelligence and resolve. She carries knowledge of networks in Virginia and speaks of unfinished business. Sarah's eyes lifted from the page. Could that be her? It's possible, Thomas said quietly. Rebecca used coded language. Travelers meant those seeking freedom. Gulf region meant Louisiana or Mississippi. The timing fits, and her reference to Virginia networks He reached for another sheet of paper, a letter written in that same delicate hand. This one, he said, sliding it gently towards Sarah, was sent by Rebecca to another conductor here in Philadelphia. He paused before unfolding it. "Would you like to read it?" Sarah hesitated, fingers brushing the aged envelope, her heart beating in the stillness of the room. Somewhere within that fragile paper, she felt waited the voice of a woman who had refused to be silenced, a voice that had crossed rivers, chains, and centuries to finally be heard. The woman with Virginia connections. Thomas read slowly, as if he could hear the woman's voice echoing from the past. She was invaluable, he said, putting the old paper down on the table. She brought information about the kindred spirits in Richmond, the habits, the routines of the powerful families. She wanted to go back to help others, but she also knew that would be her own end. Sarah was silent. She took a picture of each page, her hand shaking slightly. "So, did she come back?" Thomas just smiled, his eyes distant. There's no direct evidence. But in the letters that followed, there was mention of a mysterious woman who was active in the Richmond area in late 1860, early 1861. Someone who could pass through the wealthy neighborhoods without anyone suspecting anything. Perhaps it was her. He pulled out another small notebook. The note was brief, but it made Sarah hold her breath. December 1860. Sea reported successfully. 4 souls from the Ashford connection have passed through. Message delivered. Back in Virginia, Sarah joined Marcus Reynolds at the University of Richmond's Digital Humanities Lab. This time, they had something Clara had touched, an 1859 daguerreotype. The photo everyone thought was just an old family portrait. But Sarah knew there was something hidden in the hands of the woman standing on the right side of the frame. Lisa, the young technician, carefully placed the photo under the multispectral lens. This technology is used to decipher ancient manuscripts. She explained, her voice almost a whisper. It can see even the faint ink lines that have been swallowed by time. The screen lit up layers of pink, blue, and purple light sweeping across the frame. Every crease, every shadow was as clear as if it had been taken yesterday. Marcus leaned in slightly. "Wait, look." Lisa zoomed in. In Clara's right hand, the folded piece of paper wasn't blank. Under the multispectral light, faint lines appeared, like tiny etchings, Sarah whispered. "Maybe that's writing." Lisa adjusted the contrast. They held their breaths. The lines became clearer, not words, but a map. Rough but with many markers, and underneath strange symbols. Marcus flipped through the research notebook. These symbols are identical to the codes for underground railroad lines. He pointed to the small star in the corner of the paper. This usually denotes a safe house. "Clara, she's holding a map," Sarah almost whispered in the middle of a slave owner's family portrait. "She's hiding a network of freedom in her hands." Lisa zoomed in, and in the bottom corner, a few blurry letters emerged. JWMCRL. Probably the names of contacts, Marcus whispered. James Washington, Mary Connor, Robert Lewis. Sarah followed the trail for weeks in church records, in free black community records, and in abolitionist society records. The scattered names eventually strung together into a web. A group of people from all walks of life, all races quietly forging a path to freedom that no authority at the time could have imagined. And at the center of them was Clara. The most startling discovery came when Sarah found a report in the National Archives dated March 1861, just before the war broke out. Received information of an escaped slave named Clara, formerly of the Ashford plantation in Richmond, suspected of returning to Virginia, assisting others in their escape. Attempts to capture her failed. Subject displays abnormal intelligence and has dangerous connections. The person who signed the report was Jonathan Ashford, her former slave owner, now a Confederate security official. And in his slanted handwriting, Sarah could sense the bitterness of defeat. This woman continues to escape and disturb the peace. Her actions are a direct threat to the peace. Then, a final ray of light. In the Union Army records dated April 1865, there was a simple note. Interviewed a woman named Clara, about 40 years of age. Served as a guide at Richmond during the war. Gave useful information on Confederate shipping routes. Reward recommended. Sarah read it again and again. She survived. Not only survived, but returned to the very place that had held her captive to help dozens of others escape their chains. Months later, at the Virginia Historical Society, Sarah stood before the daguerreotype, now with a new label under the clear glass. Beside her were Elizabeth Ashford Monroe, a descendant of the slave-owning family, and Marcus Reynolds, along with several others identified as Clara's descendants. A silver-haired old man named Robert Jackson stepped closer, his eyes brimming with tears. My great-great-grandmother escaped from Richmond in 1861, he said softly. My family always said there was a woman who led the way, but no one knew her name. Now we know. It was her. The label under the frame read, "This 1859 portrait contains more than most people have ever seen." The woman on the right, later identified as Clara, holds a secret map of the Underground Railroad network in Richmond. After being sold for rebellion, she escaped, returned to Virginia, and during the Civil War years, helped dozens of people reach freedom. The map in the photo is not just a daring act. It is the declaration of an unyielding heart. As the crowd fell silent, Sarah looked up at the photograph one last time. Clara's eyes, even after more than a century and a half, still shone with calm, proud light. In her gently clenched hand, a thin sheet of paper held the evidence that the people who were once considered property were in fact the architects of freedom, and now the photograph that was once created to glorify the power of the oppressor had become a testament to the courage of the oppressed. A secret hidden in the light, protected by time, until someone patient enough, kind enough, and quiet enough to listen found it.